this is my review of Samurai Flamenco. Okay, so this episode was interesting because it shows a side of Masayoshi that's kind of loathing and self-pity because of what he's done. Even though he's tried to help, he kind of feels like he's made things worse. But then he does find out later that he did do the right thing by becoming a hero. I'll just explain later what actually happens, and I'll explain that when I get to it. But at the beginning of the episode, it's shown that Masayoshi has been wandering the streets for who knows how long, just kind of surviving and trying to keep himself fed wherever he can. But because he's a wanted criminal, he's having trouble actually buying food to feed himself with. By the time we meet him, by the time we see him, he's very starving and very hungry and is very close to dying. He's walking on death's door basically. So most of the episode, half the episode is of him wandering around town trying to avoid the public eye while also trying to find out what exactly is going on in the world and what's happening with his allies. So meanwhile, all of his allies have been arrested and or interrogated, but everybody who's been interrogated has pointed out that he's not really a criminal mastermind. He couldn't pull this off, and they feel like something is very fishy. And case in point, we know something is fishy because the government did indeed engineer all of this to make Masayoshi and the others out to be a bad guy. And because Red Axe is the quote-unquote leader of the whole conspiracy, he's apparently going to be executed at some point, according to the newspapers. I don't think that ever actually happens in the story, but it is implied. But based on what we see of him, with him being in a full-on straitjacket and face mask, and him being tied to a gurney, and the whole thing in the news about the government targeting heroes and how basically they convinced everybody that Joji Konami was the leader of the terrorist cell, well, quote unquote terrorist, and have scheduled him for execution. I don't know if they ever actually carry that out. I don't think they do, because I'm pretty sure that never happens in the story, at least to my knowledge, but who knows. Yeah, and his wife actually comes to visit him and volunteers to try and help get him out by leaving him a special gift, but he tells her not to. For the most part, Masayoshi is mostly alone. Most of his allies have been arrested, except for a few. But most of them have been arrested and are in custody and or being questioned. And then there's also Jun Hazama, who gets all of his gadgets confiscated because he kind of provided Samurai Flamenco with his entire arsenal. For the most part, everybody is just kind of in a bad place, and including Masayoshi. And also Triple M is in a bad place as well, but they do make strides working toward it in this episode, and they do finally reconcile. We do see a flashback of the conversation that Mari Maya had with the rest of the group, and it's heavily implied in this episode and outright stated that she does indeed blame Mo for making her look bad because she believes that she was made bad to look bad by Mo, who tries to get a word in edgewise but isn't able to, and eventually Mizuki just breaks it up by punching Mari in the face and pointing out how much of a brat she's being, and then they get into a heated argument about how the rest of the group doesn't really matter, at least according to Mari, because Mari points out that she kind of does most of the work, and the other two are just kind of there. So, at which point Mizuki points out that she doesn't really mind being in Mari's shadow because she likes seeing her perform and is stuck on, even when she went off the deep end and did some things that she probably shouldn't have. So and but also points out that at the moment she can't really bear to see Mari the way she is, and points out that Mari kind of looks like the sorriest person she's ever seen in the entire universe, which is a bit of an exaggeration, but is kind of accurate. At which point, Mari storms off, puts a jacket on, and runs out the apartment. And she actually does wind up going to King Torture's old stomping grounds, his old facility, to confront her problems head on. And when all the memories of her time there come rushing back, she actually doubles over and vomits, and begins feeling sorry for herself, asking herself why she can't become a hero. At which point, the rest of Triple M tracks her down, and after Mizuki explains how Mo knows Mari better than she knows herself, Mo actually comes to talk to Mari with a bag over her head because Mari can't stand to look at her, and explains where she's coming from. Finally explains where she's coming from. She pointed out that it wasn't to make Mari look bad, it's because she loves Mari so much that she couldn't stand the thought of living without her, and was scared of what would happen to Mari if she didn't do something. And so she volunteered to let herself be tortured by King Torture. And points out just how much of an inspiration she is to her, and how much she loves her, etc. At which point Mari gets upset and rips a bag off of Mo's head, and we see that Mo is actually crying because of how emotional she is, and how emotional this entire scene is, and realizes that it really wasn't Mo's fault, and Mari finally forgives her. And then they seal their reconciliation with a passionate kiss, which they then try to involve Mizuki in, who is adamantly against it, but it's implied from the cutaway that they did indeed succeed in that goal. So that was just kind of like supposed to be a comedic moment that was supposed to break up the monotony of all the depressing stuff that's been going on for this past couple of episodes. But yeah, Triple M has indeed reconciled and have indeed reformed and are now working together again. So that's good. Meanwhile, as I said, Masayoshi has kind of been wandering around and actually sneaks into a bakery with the intention to steal some food, which he never actually goes through with. But while he's in there, he sees a news bulletin on the television that's in there about the whole situation, and gets more and more pissed off the more the Prime Minister actually talks, because he knows that none of that is actually what happened, and none of that is actually true, and also in this moment realizes that the entire nation is well and truly against him, and at which point he contemplates stealing a loaf of bread from the shop, but as I said, he never goes through with it and then just leaves. At which point he goes to a bench, contemplating what he did wrong, and and lies down on the bench, contemplating that maybe he should never have become a hero in the first place, because all it's done is cause trouble for him at this point. At which point he's picked up by a random drifter, and the drifter invites him in, picks him up, invites him into his house. Well, his house, so quote unquote. It's more of a shack or tent or something along those lines, and actually picks him up, offers him food, and explains that he's just kind of helping out because he needs to, and Masayoshi points out that he can't really that the old man shouldn't involve the police, because he doesn't want the old man to get in any more trouble, because as is pointed out, Masayoshi is kind of a drifter at this point because he kind of doesn't have a place to go, and also points out that he's contemplating going to Goto's Town for Health, even though he doesn't actually say Goto's name, but he's deciding against it because he doesn't want him to get involved, because he knows what might happen to Goto if he does get involved. At which point, the drifter asks Masayoshi for a story, which he adamantly provides, and then we already know what the story is because we've been following along at this point. Then the drifter tells his story. So apparently the drifter used to be in charge of a massive corporation, one of the most successful on the planet, actually, or at least according to the story. But then similar to Masayoshi, somebody he trusted came along and tricked him, and then he was ousted out of his own company. and has been living on the streets for a while, and grew a little bit bitter in that time. That was until a while ago, when he realized he was smack dab in the middle of smuggler territory and in the middle of drug lord territory, and actually got beat up because of it, until Samurai Flamenco came along and saved him, at which point he did a complete 180 and decided to help people wherever he can, and is unknowingly telling all of this to the person who saved him. At which point Masayoshi realizes that there actually is people that will support him regardless, and realizes that he does need to finally go and see Goto-san after so long and finally ask for his help. At which point the police show up and the old man provides a distraction while Masayoshi runs off to Goto's apartment. And when he finally gets there, Goto is kind of disappointed that it took Masayoshi so long to actually come and ask for help. So yeah, this episode sets up the fact that yes, Goto is still willing to help Masayoshi even after everything that's happened, even if it does mean risking his own skin. But yeah, it's clear that Goto still does care about Masayoshi, and the reverse is also true. And also it establishes that Triple M has indeed reformed and have come back, and possibly the Flamenco girls will come back at a point. I mean, it says in one of the synopses for the episodes that they do eventually come back as allies, but they have indeed worked through their problems, and that will indeed happen sometime in the future. But who knows? But yeah, this episode just kind of helps reaffirm that Masayoshi did do the right thing by becoming a hero, even if the government is kind of against him. But yeah, this episode was good. It established all that stuff, and it is a good episode. Also, this is like the first episode I'm recording of this the first review I'm recording of this in a while, but because I had scheduling conflicts and stuff like that. But it is back in full force now. So anyway, if you guys have seen this episode of Samurai Flamenco, what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and also ring the bell so you get all the notifications, because YouTube's notification system is a bit of a mess. And also be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below, to keep up to date with what's going on the channel, because I post updates over there, as well as retweeting game development related stuff over there as well. So be sure to check that out in the description below as well. And if you want to help support the show, then be sure to check out my Patreon. It's only a couple bucks a month, and it helps me out, and you get access to a bunch of different perks depending on what tier you pledge to. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!